Hi, I'm Darren Long from Delta Harbour, and on this week's Hard Money Show, we're going to hit the paper versus the physical. Do you really need paper assets? We're going to tell you what we think about it, where inflation's heading, and what the second half of 2022 is going to do to your money. Tune in. It starts right now.
There are no shortcuts to building wealth today. It takes time, effort, sacrifice, and diversification. But today, diversification means something different than it did in the past. You deserve a more secure way to protect and grow your wealth. At Delta Harbour, we take this to heart. Our mission is to help by inviting you to add physical gold and silver to your wealth strategy. Book a free consultation today and let us show you how to protect and grow your wealth through the ownership of physical gold and silver. Let us show you the Delta difference. Hey, welcome once again, Hard Money Podcast. Welcome, John Scholes here. Of course, my good pal Darren Long is there. He is running the show at Delta Harbour, deltaharbor.com. That's Harbour with a U because we're Canadian, and this investment is all about you reaching out anytime, of course, which you always should, right? For more information to talk to Darren and the team. This investment of yours, this portfolio of yours, it is lacking in physical assets, gold and silver. The remedy has arrived. 1-877-323-GOLD is the way you do that. And of course, this podcast and all other social, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Delta Harbour is how you search again with a U. And take it from there. A little later on in the podcast, we're going to talk about actually brass tacks, getting those assets into your portfolio. How do you do it? In what form? How easy is it? Spoiler alert, it's super simple, but we're going to continue on with this anyway. Let me ask you a question here, Darren. There's very different answer for many people who work in the gold and silver industry. The question is, why do you not suggest selling your paper assets altogether and being done with the paper markets in favor of gold and silver? Just blow it out. Why not?
Well, welcome once again to Hard Money. And John, thank you for the introduction. It's a good question. I believe at one point in time, I believed that much in gold and silver that at moments I might have suggested, not unlike people that are very famous. Jim Cramer, I remember him in 2008 before the massive financial calamity occurred, saying, don't you dare touch your assets, hold the line, stay the course, all the bullshit answers that every financial advisor and accountant and bank manager give. And 2 seconds later, he's like, gas it, sell it all. And there are moments when that has happened, John. And I want to preface this by saying, I don't come on this show and do this show and act in any way, shape, or form as a person's or these people's financial planner or advisor or bank manager, accountant. That's left up to the people who have those titles and do that for a living. And you must trust them, because if they're working with your money, then obviously that's important to me. It must be important to you. But that being said, I believe in balance and diversity. I've been in this market for now almost 19 years, coming up on 19 years in this December. And what I have learned has taught me that the best portfolios overall for growth and for wealth and for the best overall strategy include a bit of everything. And it's smart decision making. You can't be passive about your wealth, John. You can't sit on it forever for 20 years and just hope for the best. You do have to make changes, but they don't have to be day trading changes. You don't have to be sitting in front of a screen constantly. You don't have to be watching the price of gold and silver every single damn day, making certain that you're okay, your positions are okay. That's going to inevitably bring too much emotion to the table. And if it's one thing I've learned about investing, it's that you cannot be emotional about money. And if you are, don't spend it. Don't put it into an investment, because it's just not worth it. We want to be unemotional about our investments to make wise decisions. And I believe you never sell it all, John. I believe that even when times are tough, and imagine, we're going to say in this show, imagine if you had sold your entire paper portfolio over the last couple of months. Prices have started to actually rebound and come back up. And we'll talk about the importance of diversity now that some people have cash on the side and have kept some powder dry and have the opportunity to buy quality assets like gold and silver. But both gold and silver do have their place in your wealth strategy, just the same as a speculative property or investment art or collectible car. Or perhaps even to a greater degree as an alternate form of currency. And if you're like us, watching a new reality in economics unfold globally, in real time, our expectation remains that we will witness. My personal expectation is we are going to witness for the very first time since the 1970s a stagflation style economy that develops out of this particular scenario. I don't believe inflation will be under control by year's end or early next year. And part of the reason is that I believe people are greedy. We're inherently greedy as a society. What wholesaler, unless his competitors are all doing it and he has no choice but to pull down his wholesale costs because he needs to be competitive, is going to reduce his overall fees in this particular culture, in this particular global mentality, at least within the G20, where it's buy as much bloody shit as you can and be as materialistic as you can. And, let's face it, Jack the lad out there is not going to live without his goddamn TVs, his gadgets, his tech gadgets, his RVs, his trailers, his cottages, and all the other shit that he compiles into his garage and his house and his life, because it's what we've been taught to do. So instead of buying that extra tech gadget or spending that unnecessary money on a phone upgrade 1 year after you got the last one, think about these things. Think about diversity in your portfolio. Think about building wealth using an asset which has been around for 3,000 fucking years. And I mean, the reality is that even if we think about it from that perspective, you know how wrong we would have to have trusted something for 3,000 plus years? It's been the mainstay of every single global cultural phenomenon that has existed. When there is no paper money left, or when the money inflates to the point that it's useless, like it's happening now, what's left over? Physical gold, physical silver. It's always been that way. It'll always be that way. But we are in the midst of an inflationary outbreak, and if history serves as a lesson, then it would be wise for us to pay close attention to what did develop in the 1970s, when we did have and experience an inflationary event that with it came along stagflation. No matter what the paper bullshitters all say, including your bank managers, your accountants, planners, advisors, or anyone you trust with your money, the truth is, I don't believe common sense exists anymore in the space of money management. If it did, we wouldn't be so greedy. We would be making smarter and wiser decisions. You would have already owned gold. You would have already bought it, because your bloody bank managers, your advisors, your financial planners, instead of focusing on their commissions for a change and how good they can make their lifestyle, they would have helped you to see something as clear as day as owning physical gold and silver. But this is where we're at, and when the hell they will smarten up and learn to relate to the people on the street who actually have to work 9 to 5, who actually have to pay bills, whose wages aren't keeping up with the cost of what inflation is doing to us. I don't know. We'll have to see. Gold is now sitting higher than it was week over week. It's up. It's doing really well up and around the 1,800 range US. Silver now trading up around the $20 range. Again, another improvement from 1950-60 range last week. And John, I couldn't be more excited about what lies ahead right now for those who are smart enough to let and allow a little bit of education, and more importantly, a little bit of physical gold and silver into their wealth strategy.
Again, 1-877-323-GOLD online, deltaharbor.com, harbor with the U. So, you wouldn't deny that, on the outside looking in, it could appear as though the economy is not as bad as you suggested. There's a lot of people are going to go, come on, Darren, come on.
Well, examine it for a moment, John. Just use common sense and apply it to where we stand. The street economy is hot right now. There's no denying it. If you look in Canada, there are record job openings everywhere. Unemployment rates here in the US are what we call full employment. They refer to it statistically as saying we are fully employed. Again, it doesn't take into account the people who've just stopped looking, which is a tremendously high number comparison to what historically it's been. Those people have just given up, work under the table, just no longer receive any type of welfare or anything of that, social assistance. But again, if you look at the numbers, manufacturing in the States, not Canada, but in the States, it expanded in July for, I think, the 25th or 26th month in a row. And that doesn't exactly sound like a recession. And lots of people will tout that it isn't, or that it's a soft landing or anything like that. In addition to that, wholesale prices did drop a little. They took one of their largest drops in the last, I think, decade or so, month over month, despite high consumer inflation. But again, that could be just simply that, we are going to just, have to deal with it, and wholesalers have to remain competitive. So there are lots of reasons for it. I mean, again, if you look at oil, it's down per barrel, right? We're up in the 120, 125, 130 range, and now down just below 100 a barrel, around 100 a barrel. Bond yields have tumbled. And I think the Canada 5-year is teetering around 90 or so beeps lower than just weeks ago. So again, some may make the argument, John, that we've already seen peak inflation. Don't buy it. It's ridiculous. You can't. The banks are going to help this along very easily, and until they absolutely have to turn it off, until they absolutely have to print money, they need to bring that rate up as high as possible so that they can in turn keep their cushion jobs, keep their comfy little commission checks and all their bonus structure intact. And, they're going to survive, as are the politicians in Ottawa and Washington, D.C., while the rest of us drink the soup du jour, which is inflation through the yin yang. But if you think about what the heads of the central banks are saying, they're remaining pretty straightforward. I mean, maybe a little bit less masculine than the last couple of months in both the U.S. and here, maybe a tad bit more dovish last week. Powell was talking last week, late the week before, and his comments might have been a little bit tad less dovish. But interest rates will continue to go up from here in both Canada and the U.S. Canada's a Labor Day interest rate hike is almost a certainty. How high it goes, I don't know. It's going to be half a point to a full point, but I would guess probably around the same as the U.S. with 3/4 of a point. And there is hope that next year, early next year, mid next year, that those interest rate hikes will slow down or stop. So you don't throw your baby out with the bathwater, as the saying goes, John. You don't get rid of all the paper. You don't blow it out the door, but you take the powder that's dry, that you didn't spend, and you put it into something that's wise to build your wealth, to build your own little central bank. Gold and silver are private. They're held by you and you only, direct ownership. You can have it in a registered account, like we talk later in the show, and ways to own it outside of that as well. But primarily, people just buy it, take it home, or store it. And it's a very private ownership. Nobody else needs to know about it. But if I'm correct in my assumption about stagflation, John, and where these global economies are heading, then gold will more than likely reach the high 4 digits in the next 60 months. So that's 5 years. That gives us plenty of time. And at the same time, if gold hits the high 4 digits up in, let's say, around the 6,000 range, 7,000 range, if it hits that price, then expect silver to hit triple digits, low triple digits in the low hundreds. Don't think it can happen? Did you think Bitcoin would come along? I mean, bad example, right? I'm sorry for you Bitcoin investors, but did you think, that Tesla would ever be valued as high as it is? I mean, these things can happen overnight, and it only takes the central banks losing faith in the shitty paper promises of the treasuries around the world that they buy, all these bullshit lies that the politicians tell when places like China soak up U.S. treasuries because China wants a open door policy to move their cheap shit into all of our countries. I mean, this is the reality that we have to deal with every day. No street person is at fault for this. I mean, we all use it. We use the system, but ultimately, you're going to have people who refer to this as a dead cat bounce or maybe a market trap, and they're going to question this bit of stock market rebound as just a fortuitous time to maybe take your money out and into something safe, like, I don't know, kitchen reno or another spec property, which is wholly not safe. I'm kidding. Don't do it. Not right now anyways. And it's possible that this is all for naught because we don't know about what tomorrow holds, really, John, and we have to be safe with our money. And these are things that we're going to let, all of as our good friend Gerald Celente refers to them, all the prostitutes handle. We're going to let the media pundits deal with it because it's fodder for them, right? A good story goes a long way. Get you to pay that monthly subscription of $1, $2, or $5, whatever the hell it is for those websites now. And we just think at the end of the day, John, you just need to look at ways to be more balanced and diversified. Whole gold and the most undervalued asset on the face of the earth, which is silver by far. I mean, read Robert Kiyosaki. Take it with a grain of salt, right? I mean, again, let's remember at the end of the day, all these guys are trying to sell shit. But read them. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and you'll understand the value of currency, what money really is. And you'll understand why guys like that tout the ownership of gold and silver every single day and why they bought so much. they're not selling it to anyone. That's just their opinion. They're not getting paid because they recommend gold or silver. That's just their opinion. It's what they personally do. But I'd rather listen to somebody who actually does it, who actually gets their foot wet and does what they say, than some 20-something-year-old, bank financial planner who knows shit from shit, who hasn't put a dollar of his own money into any of these markets. And that's what you get nowadays, especially during this crisis of employment where we can't find good people. So if you're in a position to use a bit of dry powder, now's the time to own gold and silver. It's undervalued. It remains undervalued. And you're among the very, very few 1% to 2% of the global population that understand and listen to shows like this and know really what the long term is going to be for our economy globally.
Again, 1-877-323-GOLD, guys, to take advantage, have that phone call. We watch now the second half of 2022 unfold. Is there a recipe that history might have taught us works better than the rest when we need something to, kind of satisfy the soul, the chicken soup sort of deal? What do you think?
Oh, it's a good question, John. And I mean, lots of people are clamoring to try and make their best guesstimates about what the second half of this year is going to hold. Well, it's certainly going to hold more inflation. Prices at the markets are going to rise. Farmers' Almanac says cold winter, which means, harsh on crops, especially if the winter comes early. Those late fall crops are going to be damaged. Food prices are going to go higher. There's no two ways about it. I absolutely 100% expect your food prices to rise another 3, 4, maybe 5% overall. Meats are going to get more expensive. It's not cheap to eat well these days. You can eat cheaply, but to eat well is very expensive. You expect wholesalers, people to reduce margins or to shrink the size of the products they're giving you. So you'll continue to see smaller and smaller packages. Just think of a candy bar. Every time you go into a goddamn gas station, the front bar of the gas station below where you pay is littered with what they call king size chocolate bars. 10 years ago, king size chocolate bars were 2 chocolate bars in one package. Now it's 1.5. Orange juice, 2 liters. Now it's 1.89. Just think of all the food buying that you do, and all the money you put into getting your family fed healthily, and what you do to barbecue on a weekend. I mean, just think about it from that perspective. It's not cheap anymore. And ultimately here, the Fed, the central bankers in Canada and the US are anything but neutral when it comes to shaping monetary policy. So in the second half of this year, central bankers, they unsurprisingly, and frustrates me to no end, but there's such a bunch of meatheads that it's not even funny. They pick winners and losers when they manipulate interest rates and pump liquidity into the financial system. And ultimately, what you have to understand is that the winners continue to be Bay Street and Wall Street, the bankers and the politicians, the Washington, D.C. politicians, the Ottawa politicians, and so are the holders of, let's say, the tangible assets that are financed with debt. We talk about the concept of other people's money when we talk about the collateral financing offered within our bulk bullion accounts. And that concept is really simple. This is pushing the envelope as far as we can when it comes to risking somebody else's money, except for yours, right? Because you want to keep your powder dry. And this is how the wealthy become wealthy. They use other people's money. They constantly look for it all the time, and they use it wisely. And this is what we have to do. And unfortunately, with the current Fed policies, our central banker policies, the losers continue to be people who save, put their money into savings accounts, which loses buying power, which inevitably gets completely torn apart when inflation is this rampant up near 8-9%, at street level probably 10 to 12% in Canada. So unless your savings account is making 13-14%, you're losing the amount of money that you put in there by every year 13-14%. So ultimately you have to pay attention to that. Fixed incomers who don't receive earnings, although we've announced a couple of upgrades, and I think old age security recently, that and they don't keep pace with inflation, the fixed incomers, so they're getting killed right now. Workers whose wages never get them ahead of the rising cost of living. There's another perfect example. What workplace are you going to go into where you have to say, hey, I'm the best salesman you got. I've worked my ass off the last year. Could I have a 12% increase in my pay?
Look,
right? This is the stuff this is like, what are we, politicians, right? Teachers, like they get big, huge raises. Again, not poking fun at teachers, just saying we all know you do. There's no hiding that truth. But if you're not earning at bare minimum a full 10% between wage increases in your investments, you're falling behind. And you're not going to be able to buy the same things last year. And that's a conservative estimate. It is possible, John, however, though, for individual investors to position themselves on the winning side of central bankers' monetary policies, to get on the winning side. It's very simple to do. Number one, use history. History is a perfect guide for this. The 70s, our parents did it, right? The 80s, right. That cycle changed. We went to paper assets. You didn't have to make big trades. You just swapped it out from having a big bunch of hard assets over to a bunch of softer assets. So that's all you did: paper to hard, paper to hard, paper to hard, and a balance in between. And during the boom cycles, again, I used to think differently 10 years ago. I would have said maybe once or twice a year, dump all your paper assets, get rid of them, only hold gold and silver in cash. But now I think, we need to have balance. We need to be diversified, and gold and silver should be a part of every single wealth plan on the face of this earth. Everyone. There's not a single person that goes into a bank and says, help me with my wealth, that shouldn't, in some regards, have a small amount of silver or gold or more, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20, even 25% of their wealth in physical gold assets. And I can show you a million studies that proves I'm right. So I don't give a shit what pundits say out there or the mainstream media says about gold and silver. It doesn't act as a dividend stock. It's not a house to live in. You don't eat it. It's used for a wholly different reason, and there are many of them. In fact, if you just look across the board at the story of silver and gold, you will find there are hundreds of reasons to own gold and silver right now. But during those boom cycles like we witnessed back in 2009 to 2020, it pays to be in stocks, pays to be in paper. And during others, it's far more profitable to be in assets that benefit from, the accidental consequences of the Fed's very inflationary policies. So as the Canadian U.S. economy heads into recessions of some type, very different, as I've stated on this very show, than what we're going to see, which is why a lot of people will miss it. A lot of analysts, a lot of economists will just outright miss it. They're going to tell you it's going to be soft, small, shallow. Those are words they use, when in reality it's hidden, it's manipulated, because we change things like interest rates so non-sequentially and not with common sense, and because we overspend and provide too much credit, which isn't organic and which doesn't involve real wealth and real wages, we're going to get a far different outcome this time around. So you have to be prepared for that. Traditional stocks right now are very vulnerable, but on the other hand, the demand for safe haven assets combined with ongoing inflationary pressures could provide a big boost to undervalued gold and silver markets. And if we look at gold, don't forget, gold and silver since 2000 have been averaging 9% per year. And some years, much, much more than that. Gold's only had 3 losing years in 20 years. Silver's had maybe 5. And ultimately, those have all been very, very easy to see years in which we could have limited our losses very easily. Like any assets, both gold and silver have ups and downs, but they have done the trick for those smart enough to be balanced and diversified and holding real, tangible, hard assets. So in the next decade or so, we're going to see major shifts in the way we think about the stock market. We're going to see central banks clamor to bulk up on assets like gold because they are going to lose faith in paper. And it's happening already. You're seeing stories and reading stories all around the world about different little pockets of countries coming together, like the BRIC nations and others, that want to do something other than spend their time focusing on bulking up on U.S. treasuries or using and accepting U.S. dollars as the reserve currency. And as a result, you're going to see war break out. This is the natural path of things. And unfortunately, this is the age and time we find ourselves in. So, of course, you want to own assets that have performed very well during those periods. Physical gold and silver among the best ever, and they have 3,000-4,000 year track record. So ultimately, in order to have balanced and diversified wealth at this time, John, we highly recommend you own gold and silver, physical.
Well, that kind of brings us to the last few minutes here, and people are thinking, okay, I've maybe never seen or heard this podcast before. How do we go about doing that? I know it can be as simple as a phone call, but what are some other strategies, pal?
Well, direct home delivery.
Oh,
Go to the website, check out the prices. They're live and up and running, and easily shop from home, from your mobile phone, wherever you are. Bill payments, cash payments, all kinds of payment options, wire transfer, all kinds of different things you can do there. And we'll be adding more as we go along. But that's the easiest way to do it. Just want to start the stack, get something small, get a few $1,000s worth of product into your hands, directly shipped to you. It's direct as ownership can be, and your choice and pricing all there live on the site. If home storage is something that, like us, you feel is not safe, we do offer storage. Storage starts at 1% on normal non-registered accounts, and in the registered accounts for TFSAs, RSPs, LIFs, RIFs, LIRs, all that, it's 1.25%. And we are flexible on the storage price for non-registered accounts. Our partner that we work with, unfortunately, fixes the storage rate for the registered accounts, but ultimately we are very flexible. So if you are a larger investor, which these days seems to be every third investor, then we can work out something custom for you. Remember, our storage vaults are such that you get a full audit and the opportunity to see your product. If you need to, you can pull it out, put it back in, make changes by phone. It's very liquid, and ultimately it assures you the safest way of owning your product, while at the same time keeping your product liquid for sale or for acquisition. And then again, as I mentioned, the registered accounts, putting gold and silver into TFSA. What do you got? 82,500 worth of space. If you've never had a TFSA and you qualify for the entire amount because you're old enough, you've got a great opportunity to own something capital gains free. There's $82,500 worth of value you can put into physical gold and silver, own it, and at the end of the day, take the physical home with you when you're done and it's finished. And you want to pass it on to the next generation. You want to keep it private, be quiet about it. These opportunities exist for you, and you can own some bar and coin types in there. And then lastly, the Delta Vault account. We talked about other people's money. The Delta Vault account makes it really simple.
Yep.
We've taken away all the hard work for you trying to guess what bar or coin type you should own. If you just want exposure to physical gold and silver, to know that at any point in time you could take delivery, and to minimize the amount of premium you pay for those bars and coins, and just say, hey, I've got it done. I've got myself covered. I'm in the market. The Delta Vault account is specifically designed for you. We buy product, put it into the vaults around the world, and you get to soak that product up. So you will get your inventory reports. You will have that product allotted to you one-to-one. There is no hypothecation whatsoever, like in other vaults and other situations and other banks, where 1 ounce is shared between 10 people. That does not happen. We audit that product on a regular basis, and we offer you that audit. And if at any point in time you want to convert and own specific bar types, you want to have 10,000 coins instead of just owning 10,000 ounces of silver, no problem. We can accommodate that for you. And if you want to take it home also, you can do that as well. And the best part about this, John, this is where the concept of other people's money comes into play, right? If you believe, like we do, that the gold and silver markets are just a stone's throw away from taking off and something very big happening, then you can put yourself in a position, if you're capable of doing it and you have the dry powder on the side, and you can put our mind at ease in terms of who you are as an investor with your knowledge of these markets, and making sure you have the right amount of money to do this, then we can offer you the option to collaterally finance your holdings, which means you could take your silver and gold and turn it into more silver and gold. And as long as you're okay with having open coming and going policy, as long as you're okay with using your gold and silver as collateral and nothing else, no other checks, no nothing, just making certain that that's in the account in balance, then we're perfectly fine with helping you to do that too. It's called the Delta Vault account. It's bulk bullion, and we love using the concept of other people's money. You can get up to 80% more product than you would usually normally get for the same invested dollar, which means on the earning side, your potential to earn is way bigger. So if you, like us, believe that over the next 60 months, gold and silver could take off, silver be at triple digits, think of the opportunity for you to grow your wealth in that short period of time. We're here whenever you want, whenever you desire to connect. We want to make certain that you know we exist because you are here, because the public is here, John, and we support our clients 110% every single step of the way. We're hiring right now. We're in the process of doing it. And who are we bringing in? More people to hold the hands of our clients, right? Not sales reps. We're not bringing in, some guy who's going to twist your arm, things like that. We're bringing in client liaison officers so that we can better assist our client base. It's already great. Look at our Google reviews. But ultimately, yeah, those are the ways you can get in, John. It's really simple. Just hit the website, call the number, and get it started today. But do it today, right now.
Reach out as we wrap it up here. It's almost an endless way to get started in this. It's really simple to walk you through it, right? 1-877-323-GOLD to reach out to Darren and the guys. 1-877-323-GOLD. And beyond that, Delta Harbour, Harbour with you, deltaharbor.com. That's online, all your social. And of course, this podcast available through Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your favorites. So have a discussion, reach out, talk to them, and then move from there. 1-877-323-GOLD. We'll catch you next time on the Hard Money Podcast.